Well, welcome to this celebration. My gosh, we are overwhelmed with how many people are here. So thank you so much for coming today to honor my dad and to support us. We're so happy to have you here. There's a lot going on this morning, so we apologize for the delayed start, and that allowed many of you to attend, so thank you. But 100 years of Jake Cobb. 100 years. So hard to eulogize that. So many memories. I can't even begin to do justice to it. But he made the milestone. He made 100 years. We always, I think, knew that he would make it to 100, but that kind of lulled us into this sense of he's going to be here forever. But he wasn't, and he's gone. And we celebrate him today. My dad was a World War II veteran. Many of you know his history. He served as a flight instructor in Reno from the early 40s until the war ended in 45. And that's where my parents lived, in Reno, just after they were married and my brother was born. And that's really where he fell in love with flying. And he knew he wanted to be a pilot. He was a proud member of the Happy Warriors Club, who meet here at Love Field, some veterans that meet here. And I think some are here today, and if so, we thank you for your service. My dad was wicked funny. If you knew him, you remember that. He had a great sense of humor and personality. He was a jokester for sure. He was a nose brother at Baylor University, if you know what that is. He knew how to play sarcasm perfectly, and he had a devilish grin. He taught us all the value of a really good one-liner or joke. He never met a stranger. He was friendly and outgoing, whether that was in an elevator or a restaurant or in his travels. And as a Depression-era kid, he was frugal, I will say that, to put it nicely. But he did teach me the value of saving money and being practical. For that, I'm very grateful. He taught me a lot. He taught me about work ethic and commitment and loyalty, with his long and fulfilling career as the chief pilot at Hunt Oil Company. His career with the Hunts was probably his proudest part of his life, and one that we all shared in. He loved his time there and of being of service to the family. His time with caring for and traveling with Mr. H.L. Hunt, with working with Bunker and Herbert and Lamar, and the rest of the family, some who are here today, and we appreciate that. We traveled with him as much as we could, and it was exciting, because when you're a kid and you're sitting in the jump seat of a Jetstar, your dad's the pilot, that's pretty much the coolest thing that you can have as a kid. He was a loyal and committed friend and employee to the Hunt family, and they appreciated his service. And for many years, people said, Jake, you should write a book. You should write a book and tell your stories. And he said, no way, I'm not going to do that. I would never be disloyal. So of all the great adventures he had for the family, particularly, probably the most exciting part of that was going to the Kansas City Chief games with Lamar and his family. We traveled to games as much as we could. We went to Arrowhead Stadium and all the fun away games. And I remember in elementary school, and I had just started a new school at Trinity, and my dad said, so think about this, 1972, like the heyday of the Cowboys. And my dad said, honey, we're Chief fans. We're not Cowboy fans. We're Chief fans. Like, here's some book covers for your textbooks. We're Chief fans. So I said, okay, Dad. So we remained Chief fans over the years. And he was thrilled to see the Super Bowl win a couple of years ago because he had been with Lamar for that first win. So many memories. So as we were talking about where to have this service, this museum just really became the logical place. Many of you know that this building was his first hangar, so in the 1950s at Mustang Air. So it's very special to our family. He did a lot of work for Love Field that many may not have known. He formed the Love Field Pilots Association in 1980 when they were talking about closing the airport. So we were pleased that he fought so hard to save this lovely place. He was full of advice, my dad. The most memorable advice I think that I received was when I started working after college, and he sat me down to tell me as I entered the professional world, he said, "Honey, don't ever show your butt to your boss." So, and anybody who knows him probably knows that he was speaking from personal experience, right? So, I have to note his love of ice cream because many people know that about him. You probably saw some of the photos of him enjoying ice cream. When he was a teenager, he got his dream job at an ice cream parlor and loved it until one day the manager said to him, "Kid, you are eating so much ice cream, I'm not making any money." So he lost that job, and but he was really proud of that story. He thought that was a pretty funny story. But even at the end, he would always give you his last bite of ice cream. That's just what kind of dad he was. One of my most magical memories, I would say, of him was when we went to Cody, Wyoming, which we did quite a bit in the summers when he would take those trips, and I would go with him. And one lovely morning, we got up early, before the winds came up, he said, and we took the rancher's two-seater plane out from the ranch, and he flew me through the Grand Tetons. So he flew me through the valleys and the peaks and the mountains and over a herd of elk, and it was really magical. So that was a great memory I had of him as a kid. My brother, sister, and I spanned 3 generations of baby boomers, and I was the last. The surprise. It was a surprise baby. I would say we had fairly different experiences with him based on his time and his career, their marriage, his life, kind of what was going on in history. But we all loved my dad. I think I got some of the best of my dad, actually. My dad loved my mom, Barbara Jean, for 61 years. And he also loved Marilyn Nolan. And we are so grateful to her for her companionship and her care of him over the past several years. Perhaps the best life decision that my husband and I ever made was to come back to Dallas 3 years ago. And I'm so thankful for these last 3 bonus years with him, especially in a pandemic. And I also thank my sweet husband for bringing me home. He was charming and handsome and funny and clever. He wasn't perfect. None of us are. He was fallible. But I adored my dad. He was my biggest champion, and I was his for sure. And I will miss him every single day. Cheers to Jake Cobb. We're going to open this up to, Paul's going to do a scripture reading, and then we're going to allow the audience to share any kind of stories about my dad that you'd like to. We'd love to hear them. And we have a microphone. We'll run to you.
This is one of Jake's favorites. To everything, there is a season. There's a time and purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to love, and a time of peace. Now we would like to pass the microphone around, and if anybody has anything they'd like to say about Jake, or any funny stories or remembrances, we would love to hear. Just feel free.